Opo. Sir,
Bakit?
ano password ng internet HR?
Sa kay Ma'am Grace, andun siya. Andun siya.
Saan nandun siya?
Ma'am Grace.
Ang password nito?
Ewan ko. Gusto ko kumakon yan. Ano yun? Ikot lagi.
Diba? Ngayon yun. Yan.
Hello, mic check, check.
Pwede na. Good morning everyone. Magandang umaga. Welcome to the pre-bid conference for 5 projects. But before we start, may I request the BACSEC to do a roll call of those who are here so we can determine a quorum. BACSEC.
Good morning. We would like to acknowledge the presence of the following members of the BAC: Grace B. Chua, BAC Chairperson; Loreto C. Balenya Jr., BAC Member; Client Kevin P. Filipino, BAC Provisional Member; Jaime P. Baquiran, BAC Member; Darius M. Mercado, BAC Provisional Member. With 3 regular member present and 2 provisional member, we have a quorum. May we also recognize the presence from TWG, Randolph E. Aquino, and Donito Rose S. Tibang, and from BAC Secretariat, Elmer G. Silao, and yours truly, Irvet Lormarie Argosun. That is for our attendance today.
Thank you, Engineer Irvet. So again, this pre-bid conference is for 5 projects. So first project, ID number 26OI 0018, construction of multi-purpose building, MRF Phase 2, Barangay Pamlona, LasPinas City. For the coordinates, 14.449611 to 120.974847. ABC of 9,093,311 pesos and 78 centavos. For the major work category, buildings, repair, and the calendar days is 120 calendar days. Next project, ID number 26OI 0019, construction of DSWD, Haven for Children Multipurpose Building, Barangay Alabang, Muntinlupa City. For the coordinates, 14.14.425838 to 121.030724. ABC of 14,849,995 pesos and 29 centavos. Duration of 150 calendar days. Major work category, buildings, construction without piles, low-rise, concrete frame, 1 to 5 stories. Next project, ID number 26OI 0020, rehabilitation of multipurpose buildings, community covered hall, Barangay Putatan, Muntinlupa City. For the coordinates, 14.396408, 121.04367, 14.397522, 121.0348535, 14.405808, 121.035663, 14.396047, 121.026820, 14.390991, and 121.025687. With the ABC of 29,996,175 pesos and 69 centavos. So, duration of 180 calendar days. For the major work category, buildings, construction without piles, low-rise concrete, frame 1 to 5 stories. Next project, ID number 26OI0021, construction of multipurpose building, social service area, Barangay Elias, Aldana, LasPinas City. Okay, so let's continue. So, ABC of 9,073,133 pesos and 20 centavos. Duration of 150 calendar days. For the major work categories, buildings, construction without piles, low-rise concrete, frame 1 to 5 stories. Next project, ID number 26OI0022, construction of multipurpose building, Barangay Outpost and Social Service Area, Barangay Daniel Fajardo, LasPinas City. For the coordinates, 14.481929 to 120.981521. ABC of 8,672,182 pesos and 68 centavos. Duration of... Ilang duration ito? Engineer Elmer, duration, 100... Ilang days to? Sorry. Okay. We'll double check lang the duration of the project. sige. So, anong lahat? Ito lang. Okay. Okay. So, ito lang. Sige, sige. Okay. So, for the duration, 120 calendar days. 120 calendar days. For the major work categories, building, construction without piles, low-rise concrete frame, 1 to 5 stories. So, correction lang for ID number 26OI0020, the major work category is buildings repair. Okay na? Okay. So, may I request Engineer Kevin to discuss the building requirements and the timelines.
Good morning. Here are the documents to be submitted by the contractor. For the technical documents, the following must be submitted. Field Job Certificate of Registration and Membership, including Annex A. If not yet enrolled in the Civil Works Application or CWA, the following must be included in the bid. PCAB license and registration, statement of all ongoing government and private contracts, SLCC, NFCC computation and statement of total assets and total liabilities, and joint venture agreement if applicable. Next is the bid security. For the project's requirements, the following must be submitted. Duly initialed organizational chart for the contract, duly initialed contractor's list of key personnel for the contract, duly initialed list of contractors' major equipment, omnibus sworn statement in form prescribed by GPPB, information sheet or the beneficial ownership received by the Securities and Exchange Commission for corporations, ISO 9001:2015 certificate for ABC above 30 million, and for additional requirement, the preliminary examination of technical proposal form or checklist. For the financial documents, the following must be submitted. Duly signed bid form, duly signed bid prices in the bill of quantities, duly initial detailed estimates including a summary sheet indicating the unit prices of construction materials, labor rates, and equipment rentals used, duly initialed cash flow by quarter, and for additional requirement, the preliminary examination of financial documents form or checklist. For the requirements of the bidding documents, the general requirements, conflict of interest. All bidders found to have conflicting interests shall be disqualified to participate in the procurement at hand, without prejudice to the imposition of appropriate administrative, civil, and criminal sanctions. The bidder shall also disclose the ultimate beneficial ownership of the entity it represents. Failure to comply shall be a ground for the automatic disqualification of the bid in consonance with Section 59 of the IRR. For this reason, the relationship of the aforementioned persons within the third civil degree of consanguinity or affinity shall automatically disqualify the bidder from participating in the procurement of contracts of the procuring entity, notwithstanding the act of such persons inhibiting themselves from the procurement process. For the preparation of bids, language of bids, the eligibility requirements or statements, the bids, and all other documents to be submitted to the BAC must be in English. For the documents comprising the bid, technical and financial components, the first bid envelope shall contain the following technical documents, including the eligibility requirements: list of contractors' personnel, example project manager, DPWH accredited project engineers, materials engineers, safety officer, foreman, and first aider to be assigned to the procurement project to be bid, with their complete qualifications and experience data. This personnel must meet the minimum required years of experience set in the BDS. List of contractors' major equipment units which are owned, leased, or under purchase agreements, supported by proof of ownership or certification of availability of equipment from the equipment lessor or vendor for the duration of the project, as the case may be, which must meet the minimum requirements for the contract set in the BDS. The second bid envelope shall contain the financial bid form, which includes the bid prices and the bill of quantities in accordance with ITB Clause 13.1. Bid prices. The contract shall be for the whole works, as described in the bidding documents, based on the price bill of quantities submitted by the bidder. For the given scope of work in the contract as awarded, all bid prices shall be considered as fixed prices and therefore not subject to price escalation during contract implementation, except under extraordinary circumstances as specified in GCC Clause 45. Bid currencies. All bid prices shall be quoted in Philippine peso. Bid validity. Bids shall remain valid for the period specified in the BDS, which shall not exceed 120 calendar days from the date of the opening of bids. For the bid security. The bid security should be valid for the period specified in the BDS. Any bid not accompanied by an acceptable bid security shall be considered as non-responsive and rejected by the procuring entity. Format and signing of bids. Bidders shall submit their bids through their duly authorized on or before the deadline specified in the ITB Clause 19 in 2 separate sealed bid envelopes, which shall be submitted simultaneously, whether through manual or online submission. The first shall contain the technical component of the bid, including the eligibility requirements under ITB Clause 12, and the second shall contain the financial component of the bid. Forms as mentioned in ITB Clause 17.1 must be completed without any alterations to their format. No substitute form shall be accepted. Each and every page of the bid form, including the bill of quantities under Section 9 hereof, shall be signed by the duly authorized representatives of the bidder. Failure to do so shall be a ground for the rejection of the bid. Any insertions, erasures, or overwriting shall be valid only if they are signed or initialed by the duly authorized representative of the bidder. For the sealing and marking of bids. Bidders shall enclose their technical documents prescribed in ITB Clause 12 in one sealed envelope marked technical component, and the financial component in other sealed envelope marked financial component, sealing them all in an outer envelope marked bid. The bid shall be typed or written in ink and shall be signed by the bidder or its duly authorized representatives. All envelopes shall contain the name of the contract to be bid in capital letters, bear the name and address of bidder in capital letters, be addressed to the procuring entity's back in accordance with ITB Clause 18.1, bear the specific identification of this bidding process indicated in the ITB Clause 1.1, and bear a warning, do not open before the date and time for the opening of bids in accordance with ITB Clause 19. For manually submitted bid envelopes that are not properly sealed and marked, as required in the bidding documents, the same shall be accepted, provided that the bidder or its duly authorized representative shall acknowledge such condition of the bid as submitted. On the other hand, unsealed or unmarked bid envelopes or bids that cannot be opened or corrupted in case of online submission shall be rejected. The BAC shall assume no responsibility for misplaced or lost contents of the improperly sealed or marked bid, or for its premature opening. For the opening and preliminary examination of bids. Deadline for submission of bids. Bids must be received by the procuring entity's BAC at the address indicated in the invitation to bid, or through the electronic bid submission on or before the date and time indicated in the BDS. Late bids. Bids, including the eligibility requirements submitted after the deadline, shall be rejected by the BAC. The BAC shall record in the minutes of the meeting the submission and opening of bids, the bidder's name and its representative, and the time the late bid was submitted. For the modification and withdrawal of bids. Bidders may modify their bids before the deadline for the submission and receipt of bids. Bidders may withdraw their bids in writing before the deadline for submission and receipt of bids. Withdrawal of bids after the applicable deadline shall be subject to appropriate sanctions as prescribed in the IRR. For the evaluation and comparison of bids. Detailed evaluation and comparison of bids. The procuring entity will undertake the detailed evaluation and comparison of the bids which have passed the opening and preliminary examination of bids to determine the lowest calculated bid. The BAC shall immediately conduct a detailed evaluation of all bids using non-discretionary criteria in considering the following. Completeness of the bid. Unless the BDS allows partial bids, bids not addressing or providing all of the required items in the BDS shall be considered non-responsive and thus automatically disqualified. However, when no price or a zero or a dash is indicated in a required item in the bid form, the same shall be construed that it is being offered for free to the government, except those required by law or regulations to be provided for. And arithmetical corrections. The BAC shall consider computational errors and omissions to enable proper comparison of all eligible bids. It may also consider bid correction if expressly allowed in the BDS. Any adjustment shall be calculated in monetary terms to determine the calculated prices. For the post-qualification, the bidder, within a non-extendable period of 5 calendar days from receipt of notice from the BAC, shall submit all the eligibility documents supporting its PhilJob certificate of registration, which is a platinum membership, its latest income and business tax returns filed for the preceding quarter, which should not be earlier than 2 quarters from the date of submission, and receipt of bid and other appropriate licenses and permits required by law and stated in the BDS. For our timelines, the last day of clarification or query is on April 3, 2026, which is 10 days before the deadline of receipt of bids. The deadline of receipt of bid is at 8 a.m. of April 13, 2026, and the opening of bids is at 9 a.m. of April 13, 2026.
Thank you, Engineer Kevin. May I request the BACSEC to check the questions generated online, if there's any. No questions. So again, we would like to remind the prospective bidders that the last day of clarification or query is on April 3, 2026, 10 days before the deadline of receipt of bid. And the deadline of receipt of bid is at 8 a.m. of April 13, 2026. And the opening of bids is at 9 a.m. of April 13, 2026. So we are done for this agenda. Thank you all for coming.